Good morning, beautiful people. It's me, Dashma. I'm super excited for today's session. We are going to be going over some unique practices, which we call in the yoga tradition Kriyas, which can transform your health, your energy, your vibration. And it's a big part of what we teach at the Flow State Institute. So I'm going to go into a couple of, like a little bit of a description of what is a kriya, because in the traditional yoga classes, a lot of times you go into a yoga class and it's just like all asanas, and in yoga, like asanas are the physical poses, which are super powerful, very, very beneficial for our health and well-being, and there's lots of benefits of those. But there are other practices in the yogic tradition that are even more effective for clearing energy, making you feel better, like really rapidly. And these are what we call, what I would say, biohacking techniques. So in the Flow State Institute, we're all about what we call biohacking, which really means that you learn certain secrets about the way that our biology works and how we can kind of like strategically manipulate that in order to create a certain result. So let's say our result is we want to open our heart, right? Or we want to have a clearer, more peaceful mind. Or maybe we're having digestive issues. Like there are different energies throughout the body. And so every time we as a yoga teacher, as a professional in the health and wellness industry, every time that you experience something like that, that's an opportunity to learn to master these practices. And it's not to say that you'll always remember, but like that's really what this is all about. That when you learn these things, that they can serve you in your life for the rest of your life and actually start to reverse the aging process. And you'll notice with consistent practice that actually your energy can feel better over time, and you'll start to even look younger as well. And the reason for all of that is one of the things that causes us to age over time is what we call cellular degeneration. So basically over time our cells start to kind of like die, and so the more oxygen and cleansing out toxins that we do, then they thrive. So it's kind of like if you have a garden, and then like in the garden there's a lot of, let's say, acid rain or like some kind of sort of toxic spillage going on in your garden. Of course your flowers and your plants might die or wither. Whereas if you put fertilizer and really healthy clean water and minerals, right, and sunshine, then we start to see the opposite effect, that you could literally turn kind of like a dying garden into a thriving sanctuary and beautiful space where everything lives and grows optimally. So that's really what we're doing with all of this. So if you think about it, it's not just about getting flexible. Like a lot of times, like in the yogic industry, people focus on that one aspect, which is like the flexibility aspect, but there's so many other things. So basically there are four main what we call bodies, right? So we have our physical body, we have our emotional body, we have our mental body, and then we have our spiritual body. So in the book Journey to Joyful, which is the kind of like training manual for the Flow State Institute, you will notice, so there's Sanskrit words for these. So there's like the prana maya kosha, the mana maya kosha. So mana maya kosha is the physical, and then prana maya kosha is the like energy, and then there's ananda maya kosha. So this is your bliss sheath. And I want to kind of paint the picture here. Imagine just for a moment, even if you're skeptical about the idea that we have an energy field, right? In physics, it's already kind of proven that we have like what we call a quantum energy field, which is a field of energy that extends out beyond our physical body, right? So we have this energy field. Now, it's so fascinating when I first learned that we can actually grow our energy field. So like we can expand our energy field. So one thing that I heard one time was actually Amma, who is the hugging saint from India, that her energy field actually expanded and it's a mile big. So for example, people a mile away can still get benefits from the positive energy of her energy field. I actually experienced that one time when I went to one of her events. I went to this huge event. It was actually at the convention center in LA. I think there was probably like 40 or 50,000 people there. I also went to an event with the Dalai Lama there and like a couple of other people like Shakira. But basically you can see like certain people, their energy field is so big that they can literally impact a stadium of 50,000 people. And even the people that are still waiting in line to get a ticket outside feel the energy. So not to say like we're all going to grow our energy field up a mile big, but the idea is that you can grow your energy field. So if you feel like your energy is a little low or blocked in certain areas, that's what the flow state protocols or system is all about. It's kind of like, first of all, assessing where's the block, right? And then it's almost like a sleuth, right? You're like a detective. But like I also like to think of it almost like a medical doctor, right? You're going to assess where's the block, or is there like a weakness. It doesn't have to necessarily be a block, but it could be like a block, it could be a weakness, it could be a leak. You know, there's different ways to look at it, but there's like different energy fields. These are called our energy centers. These are called the chakras in the yoga system. So we have 7 major energy centers on the physical body. And then once we get really clear of knowing a little bit about that, like what each energy center is all about, that helps us to be able to assess, okay, what's going on here. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a woman the other day who's going to be joining our training, and she was saying she had a bulging disc in her lumbar. And basically, she was super young, I think in her early 20s. And I think she was in an accident of sorts, so that was kind of what happened. But basically, I could relate because I had been hit by a car, and that car accident caused me to get scoliosis, which is improper curvature of the spine. So anytime you're dealing with the level of the spine, what you're really doing, like if you think about the energetic level, you are talking about the very foundation of your being, right? So this is super crucial that your spine is in the perfect alignment. So when we talk about perfect alignment, you know, I might say like, oh, nobody's perfect, but it's not like that there's a perfect, like where if you had 10 people in a row, they should all have the exact same spine. Everybody's spine is slightly different, but there is a perfect form of alignment that's optimal for each person. So we have the level of the physical, like the very core of us is the spine. That's what holds us together in the physical, all the way out to the very like ethereal level, which is like just pure spirit, right? And so that's what these layers of energy are. So you have the physical, and then you have the emotional body. After the physical body, you have the emotional body. So that's the aspect of your being that carries the what we call energy and motion, which is emotions. And we're emotional beings. Like humans are emotional beings. You should feel emotions. So what you want to do is feel the highest emotions. You want to be able to feel joy and happiness and lightness and optimism, peacefulness. These are all at the higher end of the spectrum of emotional energy. And then at the lower end of the spectrum of emotional energy is things like depression, anger, rage, grief, all the kind of like negative emotions. Not to say like one is bad, one is good. We all experience all of them, but what we want to do is get into a consistent high vibration. And that requires us to really look at the low energies, the emotions that seem to come up consistently, and then work through those with a variety of ways. So I'm going to talk about, today we'll be talking a lot about the emotions, because that's kind of like that level of energy that really influences how you feel. But at the same time, if your spine has a bulging disc, or if you have a physical pain, that's going to affect how you feel, right? So like everything is interconnected. So I was thinking about like when people come to yoga, a lot of times they're in some sort of pain, right? So not to say always, because sometimes people are like, oh, I just love yoga, and they just go because they feel good when they go, and they always, you know, these people are very proactive. You want to be a proactive person. You want to go to yoga not when you need it because you're in so much pain, but when you're preventing the pain by going. So that's like a proactive person, very intelligent. But then there's a lot of people that come.
Right. I I was gonna jump in and say,
Yeah, what?
sorry, Dashma, I had to jump in. I was like, yeah, when you're in pain, yoga is not, it's not the time to do yoga. I just wanted to say from someone who's suffered from a bulging disc. Oh, hello?
Sorry about that. Well, it's not necessarily true. What I'm saying is there are different types of practices within the yogic tradition that would be very highly healing and beneficial. But like if you go to a traditional class, like if you just went to like the YMCA or your local gym, the only type of yoga that most people are teaching in those settings are like very vigorous, very physically oriented practices. So those are the type that you could potentially like injure yourself further if you already have some kind of exasperated situation like a bulging disc. But if you went to a practice that was highly more on the energetic level, like clearing emotional blocks or meditation that helps to bring you into a better energy mindset and a feeling, right? Or breath work that's particularly focused on clearing or healing energy. Those are all yogic practices. So what I'm really aiming to help everybody to understand is that yoga is not just the physical practice. So often when we think of going to a yoga class or even teaching a yoga class, we're really thinking, because this is what society has created for the idea of what is yoga, is that it's these physical movements. And that's not necessarily the case. In fact, I know people who are like very high level yogis and they hardly do physical movements in the form of yoga poses. Maybe they'll do a little bit, but it's not like the main practice. You can make your main practice meditation. You could make your main practice what I'm going to be talking about today, which is energy clearing, energy elevating breathworks, kriyas, mantras. All of these are part of the yogic tradition. And all of these are what I would say actually the more powerful practices to learn. And as you learn these and as you practice these, you actually make yourself a more valuable and extraordinary teacher because so few people are doing and teaching these. And you go to a normal yoga class, like I said, like at the gym or at the studio or anywhere like that, what you're normally finding is like a lot of like the same stuff, right? I remember that's why I kind of like when I started teaching, I used to go to a lot of like local classes with my friends teaching and stuff, and it was really, really great because I was learning all these asanas and the names of them and mastering the poses and stuff. But then I started to realize like, it's literally always the same almost. Like you go to like almost any class and it's kind of like same. Doesn't mean that it's bad, but you want to be the type of teacher that people come to your class and they're like, wow, that was different. And not only like different just to be different, but that was different in such a powerful way that it was like life-changingly different. And you can do that. And it doesn't take rocket science. There's actually just a few things that you can integrate into your class that would be able to make it accessible for anybody, even if they have bulging discs, even if they have any kind of physical pain or injury or surgeries or even pregnancies and stuff like that. And these types of yogic practices, the breath, the kriya, the mantra, the meditations, the more energy sort of practices versus the physical practices are actually more accessible to a wider demographic. The reason I think that they never got like so popular in terms of like you don't see a lot of it like in the media is because tendency is that it's not that interesting to look at, right? It's like somebody sitting there breathing. Like how many pictures of that do you want to look at? Whereas the yoga poses, like they can do all this artistic movements and it's very like beautiful and it's very artistic. And so that way it ends up being more visually appealing. And that's why it got more popular in the mainstream media and social media and things like that. But overall, the more effective practices, the more powerful practices are the energy practices, the meditations, the kriyas, the mantras, the breath work. And when I feel like, let's say your heart feels closed or you feel just like exhausted or depleted or fatigued or anything where your energy feels low, you do want to do some physical movements because that will help get the flow of energy moving in your body. And then, but also combining that, sometimes you're too tired to even do the physical movements. Or like what Joe PL was just saying, what she feels is like if you're injured, that you're not in a good place to do a lot of the physical movements. So you just do more like the gentle ones, some yin yoga. You do still want to do some of that because it will stretch you out. It will balance your musculature so that your spine can be in a better alignment. And there's a lot of benefits to that. But the primary practice could become more of the meditative practices. And this happened to me when I injured my shoulder. It was around almost 12 years. No, I think it was 2012 or 13. But basically I was being an idiot. I was doing like break dancing on the beach. It was New Year's Day with my friend, and he was teaching me like these, they call a arm stall. Basically it's a one-handed handstand. And I was just doing it over and over. I was getting it actually, so I was like super excited that I was getting it. And I did like 10 in a row, and it was on the sand, which is a very unstable surface. And the last one, I was super tired and fatigued, and my shoulder gave out. And I ended up kind of collapsing, and I tore something in my shoulder. So that was really painful. But the good thing was, and I always see like everything's a blessing. So like if you're experiencing some kind of injury or pain, always a blessing. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. But basically what I learned was I couldn't do hardly any of the physical practice. I couldn't do downward dog. I couldn't do any of the vinyasa hardly, because a lot of it requires shoulder. So I had to switch up my practice completely. And so for over 3 months, I hardly did like the yoga practices, the physical practice. Instead, I started really getting into the meditation. I would get up every morning, sit in silent meditation for like 1 to 2 hours. And I was listening to healing frequency music. And the music, which is, there's different music, and we really, at the Flow State Institute, I love to emphasize the importance and the power of music. Not just like listening to like some kind of Britney Spears type of thing, but like actually frequencies, to know that every time we listen to music, we are bringing a frequency into our energy field. And so we want to utilize even music as medicine and to elevate our energy. So you can do that for yourself. You can listen to like with your earbuds. You can go around. I used to do that even going to the grocery store, like put my earbuds in, put on some like 532, whatever kind of like different type of frequency, whatever I want. I can show you guys some different frequency beats. We have started to put some on my YouTube channel lately too. But just the idea of introducing yourself to like the frequency beats. So when you put the frequency beats in earbuds, it goes directly into your brain, which is so powerful. That's why they call this one binaural beat. Binaural means both sides of the brain, and they're sending a different frequency, like a different energy into both sides. And what it does is it meets in the middle, and it creates like a third frequency, and it puts you into a certain state of mind and a state of energy. So that's what the power of frequency beats can be. And so I highly encourage you to listen to frequency beats as much as possible. You can even play that while you're sleeping, which is so beautiful and powerful, is to play frequency music while you're sleeping, because then you wake up in a better vibe and you can sleep really good. There's even certain beats that help you sleep better. But anyway, so combining the music and the frequency energy of that with other practices is very like kind of like expediting the process of healing or transformation. So for example, let's say you're listening to frequency beats, doing yin yoga and mantras or breathwork, right? So you're doing a number of things all at once. So when you have multiple practices at once, this is what they call Kriyas. So the Kriyas are practices that combine multiple techniques of yoga. So it usually combines breath, mantra, meditation, and some kind of a movement or asana. So it's like 4 major practices in one. That's why these move energy so powerfully. And every enlightened yoga master that I've ever worked with always teaches Kriyas. So I want to pass this along to you as early as possible on your journey as a teacher, so that you can also utilize these, and you can use them at any time. Like for example, the other night I was super stressed because honestly, it's because of the puppies. I mean, my house has been like a puppy like zoo for like 3 months, and it starts to get a little stressful. So anyway, I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the spa. So I went to the spa and I was in the steam room. And what I like to do, and I recommend everybody to do, if you can, go to a spa, but like go for a minimum of like 4 to 8 hours. And you just do like a circuit, right? You just go like steam room, sauna, hammam, cold plunge, and then the cold shower, and then keep going around. And like what I like to do when I'm in the steam room or the sauna or any of those is just breathing techniques and yin yoga. So yin yoga is where you do a yoga pose and you just hold it for like a long time. So you just relax and you allow your nervous system to relax. And it may sound simple, like, oh yeah, just relax your nervous system. But it actually takes time. Usually if you have a lot of stress or anxiety or exhaustion or fatigue or anything like that, or you're working through, like maybe you have a virus or a sickness, something's going on, whatever it is, that it takes time for it to calm the nervous system and get yourself back into a good place. That's why I say 4 to 8 hours. Now, if you can't do it 4 to 8 hours, then go more consistently for shorter periods of time, maybe like an hour a day. That would be perfect. But if you didn't go for like months, give yourself a good full day. Anyway, so basically maybe you don't have access to a spa. So if you don't, you could do this in a bathtub, But if you can't do it even in that environment, maybe you don't have a bathtub even, maybe just do it in your bed. It doesn't need to be any fancy environment. But the more hydrotherapy you include, it just helps, because hydrotherapy calms the nervous system as well. So it's like double teaming to help raise your vibration and to help get you into the vibe. So basically your natural state is joy. Your body's natural state is bliss. And it sounds silly to say that, because a lot of people are like, yeah, right, some people might say they hardly ever experienced that. But that's why I was explaining. So we have like our energy field. So we have the physical, we have the emotional, we have the mental, and we have the spiritual level. And then the final level of our energy field is called the Anandamaya Kosha. So Ananda means bliss. So it's the bliss sheath, or it's the layer of your energy field that's pure bliss. And I talk about this in the book Journey to Joyful. So if you're in the training, that's included in the training, in the manuals and the books. But if you're watching this and you're not in the training, you could actually buy that on Amazon. But the point is that in this book you can see a visual of it. And what the point is that the very like outer ring, maybe you could call, like if you were like a planet and you were like Saturn and you have like rings, your outer ring is bliss. So everything in between the physical body and that outer ring of bliss is like blocking the vibe. All right. So let's say the vibe is bliss, like you should be in bliss. And you can see this in babies a lot. They're just like, hey, like a lot of times they're just like pure joy and bliss. So you can see, like when we're born, we start out in a very good vibe. Now, they're not always in bliss. Sometimes they're crying, sometimes they have other energy. But overall, like we should be able to access that energy. So if we don't feel in the blissful place, like if we don't feel that energy very frequently, it means that there's some healing to do, some like clearing to do in the layers in between. So that's the mind, the body, the emotions, and even the spiritual level, which we could call like the ancestral healing, the karmic healing, and all of that. So that's what this school is really all about. It's not only about how to heal the physical, because going back to the story I was sharing earlier about the girl who had this bulging disc, she was asking me how to heal that. And I was saying, one of the things that we really emphasize at the Flow State Institute is that your body, any pain that we experience, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, every pain is a message from your soul. So your soul is talking to you. So let's say your body has pain. We'll go to the girl with the example of the bulging disc. So her body has a bulging disc. Now we want to look at the physical body. We say, where's the lumbar? That's the lower back. So this is in the energy center of the first and second chakra. So we know that the message that her soul is trying to communicate is about the first or second chakra. So doesn't mean that she doesn't have other problems, but this is her big one. This is the one that's screaming with a red flashing light, like, look at this energy here. It's painful. We need to go deep into the core of this pain and look at the reason, where is this coming from, so we can heal it at the core, and that will really help to heal it at the physical level. And it sounds like almost like, how is that possible? But if you clear it at the very core level, on the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, ancestral levels, the physical pain will heal itself. A good example of that, and I will use Jo PL as an example, because she had this similar thing of the bulging disc. And one thing that's been really, really cool to witness is that as she's been healing it, it's going hand in hand of her healing the root chakra. Because, for example, she was a traveling nurse, right? So Jo was a traveling nurse, meaning like she would go to different hospitals all over the place, always moving around. So this is very not bad, but like disruptive for the root chakra, because the root chakra needs stability, right? So if you're just always going all over, same thing for me. I traveled the whole world, so my root chakra was like, didn't know what a root was after a while. It's like, I gotta keep moving, and it felt very good to move around. Like, it felt natural to be moving a lot. So if you think about your root chakra is like a tree. It wants to have a root, and it wants to feel stable, safe, and secure. So if there's anything in your energy or in your life scenario, your environment, that feels not safe, not secure, and that could be in many regards, right? It could be like in your home, your environment, your community, your relationship dynamics, could be in your work, your finances, but all of those are in the element of the root of feeling safe and secure. Now, somebody, for example, that's like in Ukraine right now, I'm sure like all of them are getting a lot of root chakra trauma because they're in an environment of war where it's completely unsafe and completely no security feeling. So they're going to need a lot of root chakra healing over there in Ukraine, for example. But anyway, sometimes our root chakra got damaged as a child. Like, I know myself, for example, I was sent to live in foster homes. So I never really felt any one place was home, and I never felt really fully safe or secure in any home because we moved a lot and we were put into different homes. The point is, when you have any kind of thing going on in the root chakra, usually it will manifest itself in some kind of disturbance in that area of the physical body. Could be a bulging disc, could be back pain, could be hip pain. Some people end up with hip replacements. Could be hamstring gets pulled. Could be things like simpler, maybe it doesn't have to be like extreme, but like maybe digestive disturbances, issues with the digestion, and things like that. So those are all the root chakra. So as we look at the root chakra and we're like, okay, do I have any problems going on in my life in my root chakra? Like, you don't have to tell me out loud, but just assess this for yourself. Think to yourself, do I have any of that she's describing? Pain, injury, even extreme tightness, or like the digestive thing is a big one, because I think a lot of people have digestive issues. They don't really correlate that to the root chakra, but that's in the same energy center, right? It's down all there, like below the sternum, below the navel. That's your root chakra. So like another one is the womb, the uterus, the reproductive organs, and things like that. So those are all ways that we can start to assess ourself. Now, the reason that we want to apply this to ourselves is because you want to learn this firsthand. And then as you become a teacher, a healer, or a coach with this, you help other people with their situation. So you're like, okay, if they're having pain in that lower energy center, we need to work on the root chakra or the second chakra. We're going to talk about second chakra in a second. Let's see, Flora, hey, happy Sunday, welcome, goddess. Justine came in just at the right time. I've been dealing with chronic digestion issues. Hey, thank you for sharing. Yeah, so, I'll be honest, like, I had digestion issues like most of my life, but actually it's been like tremendously better lately, and I've been really, really so happy, because it's really disturbing to have digestion issues, but we can dissect that for a moment. So there's different kinds of digestion issues, but like one of them, a lot of times it's coming from we're not chewing enough. It could be something as simple as that, like, because the digestion begins in the mouth, in the jaw. So like, and this is very scientific, but like actually carbohydrates are processed mostly digested in the mouth. So if we don't chew enough, and we have carbohydrates, what happens is we get indigestion because your body is not meant to break down carbohydrates in your gut. Your gut actually can break down proteins and fats though, because those require acids to digest and to break down, whereas the mouth has a different type of acids that break down the carbohydrates. So these are our two digestions, right? There's the mouth, that's our carbohydrate digestive system. We got to chew until it's liquid and then swallow, and then it goes in, and then like if you've gotten it really nice and digested in your mouth and then you swallow, by the time it gets into your intestines, your gut, right, it can just assimilate the nutrients. What that means is that it can, like, the nutrients can absorb into the little cell linings of the digestive system, and all of a sudden all the little nutrients that you just ate, let's say you had like something even as simple as a piece of fruit. So you chew up the fruit, you bring it in. Let's say it was an orange, so it had lots of vitamin C. And then it comes in, and then all that vitamin C goes into your cells, boosts your immune, and you're like, woo, that was great. But let's say you just take a piece of orange, swallow it whole, don't chew, right? So then your gut is like, we don't know what to do with this, because it doesn't have teeth. It doesn't have really way to break it down. It does have this thing called peristalsis, but it just goes like this. So it's very slow. It's nothing like teeth. It's like teeth with no teeth. It's like just gumming. So it can break it down over time. It will break it down over time, but it just takes a long time. And that's what causes the indigestion, is that let's say you bring in a piece of an orange and you don't chew it, or whatever, any kind of carbohydrates, even rice or bread or anything. Bring it in, don't chew it, and then it goes into your gut. Now your gut's like, hey, you didn't chew this, so I gotta try to like do something, smash it with this peristalsis.
I think another really big reason people get the, stomach aches or whatever, I think everyone describes it differently, is the gut bacteria itself is trying to digest those particles. And how it's reacting, like it can react differently in different people to different foods. So it might swell up and you might get like people think, call it the gluten belly, where your belly sticks straight out, like full and hard, like a basketball. And then you fart all night. And like that feeling can come from a lot of different things, I guess. And I wanted to say that, just add that in there. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well, actually, that's a good point. And we were going to get to that a little, but I really appreciate you sharing that. So there's different aspects, but we're just starting with like the very basic, because this is something that it took me my whole life almost to learn. And I always knew you're supposed to chew your food, right? But like, it's not like you don't know that. It's just whatever habitual, non-mindful lifestyle that we get into, where we're like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to chew, but I just like swallowed everything whole. Like, when people say I just inhaled that. If you feel like you just inhaled your food, that means you didn't chew, right? And even if you did chew, one of the things that I learned, for example, going to the Ayurveda center for 4 years in a row, was that there's like levels of chewing, right? So there's like, I chewed 10 times and swallowed, and then there's like, I chewed it till it's liquid. So those are the two. And I really learned this actually the most when I went to this place in Hawaii called Angel Farms, which really focuses on colon hydrotherapy and clearing out the colon and the gut. And they require you to only eat liquids, and so that they make soup and then they blend the soup. And so you're literally like, what they're doing is they're actually digesting it for you. They're putting it in the blender. So that's why having smoothies a lot of times is easier to digest, because the blender breaks it down to a point where now, you should still do a little chewing because the enzymes and some of the digestive process needs to still happen, but at least the blender will break it down a lot. So anyway, during that cleanse process, I had to have only liquids. And I noticed my digestion was so much better when I was having only liquids. And I was like, well, I love this only liquid diet. It's great. After a while, though, you want to have solid food. So then you're like, well, how do I feel as good as I feel on the liquids but having food? And it comes down to chewing. Okay, so then there's what Joe PL was just mentioning, which is, okay, once it's chewed or it's in your gut, now you have a whole nother slew of situations, right? That's why I highly encourage, especially through the Flow State Institute, doing colon hydrotherapy, doing cleansing, whatever. There's different ways that you can do that. But basically getting the gut, and I call it the gut, but basically your gut includes your colon, your intestines, your stomach. All of these things is like all part of like the gut. So your gut, it includes all these organs that are, the process is to break down the food and then assimilate the nutrients and eliminate the waste. That's like the whole system. Should be simple. But because we live in a very fast-paced world now, what happens is we have not chewed our food, or whatever, maybe you chew, but like maybe the food's full of pesticides and there's different issues, right? And what Joe PL was just mentioning is that like once it gets in the gut, now you have a whole nother process going on. And like she was saying, so you might have kind of bacterias in there that aren't good, for example. Maybe they've come in from eating something that wasn't, like maybe you were in another country. A lot of times, especially if you travel to other countries, especially Asia and things, you tend to get like foreign bacteria that your body is not familiar with, and so it doesn't know how to process, and it kind of inhibits the breakdown of the food, and it inhibits the digestive process and actually causes this, what we were just describing as like indigestion, which could be gases, bloating, and things like that. So you know, when we talk about digestion, it's not just like one thing, right? It's like starts in your jaw, starts in the chewing, then it goes into the gut. Now you have to have the right bacteria, you have to have the right enzymes, you have to have the good environment, and you don't, you know, so that's why doing regular cleansing, I feel it's just like when you do an oil change in your car. You need to do these things, right? Or same thing, you take a shower every day, you brush your teeth every day. Imagine if you didn't brush your teeth every day. You would have no teeth, right? It's like the same thing. You got to cleanse your colon regularly. Let's see, Stacy says, I just wanted to let you know that I was not able to access the master cleanse from the class. I let Nathan know, but I haven't heard anything. Oh my goodness, thank you for letting me know, Stacy. And I can get that to you. What I can do is I'll post it in the WhatsApp group if you guys want, or I can put, I also want to let you guys know we have the Facebook group now, and a lot of people are over there. So if you guys want to interact with a whole bunch of people from the Flow State tribe, we have our Facebook group. Let's see, Katie. So I'll post that for you. And I want to mention about the master cleanse because there's like the traditional master cleanse, which is the ebook that she's referring to. It's very, very powerful and simple. I've done it a few times. It's quite remarkable. But at the same time, I started to add a few other ingredients in to make it even more effective. So the traditional master cleanse is just lemon, like fresh squeezed lemon, cayenne pepper, water, and what they usually recommend is to put maple syrup, which I don't do because that's a lot of sugar and I don't want to have that kind of sugar. So instead I usually replace the maple sugar with like monk fruit or stevia or some kind of like sugar replacement because I still like to have it sweet. Another thing I've been doing lately to give it a little boost is I put that Genius Consciousness powder and some electrolytes, and that just makes it more electrolytes and has a little bit of caffeine, has a lot of neurotropics so that my brain is more focused and clear, more energy. But particularly the other ingredient that I add that I've been adding that I really think is beneficial is apple cider vinegar. Now, some people do or do not love apple cider vinegar. When I was a little kid, my mother used to give us apple cider vinegar, and I loved it. So I'm kind of weird, but you can grow to love it. What I think you want to grow to love about it is the benefits. You might never grow to love the flavor. That's okay. You're going to grow to love the benefits. To me, the benefits are really interesting. You could even Google the benefits of apple cider vinegar just in terms of alkalinizing your system and cleansing and detoxing. But anyway, so just, and it's also really good for weight loss. Like if you're trying to lose a little bit of extra fat, apple cider vinegar helps with that because it boosts out your metabolism as well. But anyway, you can do different ones. I also like to add aloe, like fresh aloe liquid. That's really nice in there too because that's really healing for your digestion. And then depending on the day, sometimes I do different things. But this is what we call the goddess cleanse. So the goddess cleanse is like the master cleanse with a few extra ingredients. And I just mentioned them all here. But if you guys want me to write them out, I can. I think there is something about that in the Total Life Cleanse program, but it's not in the Master Cleanse ebook, because the Master Cleanse ebook is the traditional original Master Cleanse. This is, I don't even know, maybe like decades old, and many people have done it. Now I want to mention about the Master Cleanse, because what they suggest is that you only drink this. So it's like having spicy lemonade all day. Now you could do that for just one day. You could do that for 2 to 3 days. I've never been able to do it for more than 3 days. I think it's because, for me anyway, it just doesn't have enough like minerals and stuff. That's why I started adding electrolytes and stuff. So anyway, if you add a few extra things, you could probably go longer. I know people that go like 7 to 10 days on the Master Cleanse, and that's really great if you can. I also suggest not really doing it when it's super cold out. Like if it's freezing, when you do cleanse fasting and you don't have any food, your body temperature goes down even more and you can feel really cold. And so in those cases, you want to make sure that if you are going to do a cleanse, I would do something more like a smoothie cleanse, something where there's some substance to it. Because when you do something like the Master Cleanse, the Goddess Cleanse, or even a juice or water fast, you will get really cold because your body temperature drops when you don't bring in any food. Food does give you heat. Anyway, the other thing that I really want to sort of emphasize is if you're doing any kind of cleanse, it's super important to do both. Not only just stop eating food and bringing in these liquid drinks, but also on the other side of that, what we were just talking about, the root chakra, you have to cleanse your colon. So a big part of the colon cleansing is like you can take psyllium fiber, bentonite clay, and different kinds of things help you to release and get it all out. So you could do, some people, there used to be a lot of these detox teas that had senna, and senna got a really bad reputation because it can cause cramping, and it's not really good. So another way of doing it that I think is really nice is just magnesium. If you take magnesium before you go to bed, it helps peristalsis improve, and it helps you move things through much easier. Another thing that's more intense, but if you need it, you can do it, is to drink some salt water, usually like Epsom salt water, not just like table salt, but like actually like Epsom salt, edible grade Epsom salt with some water, a little bit. Drink that before bed. You will go to the bathroom a lot. One time I gave that to my little sister, and she was on the toilet all day. So you got to watch out. But she needed it, but it's not pleasant. You don't want to do that and go to work. You got to do that on your day off when you're just, ready for a cleanse, ready to get everything out, and you will feel like a brand new person, literally. Most people don't realize that your food, that's like the waste products that are in your gut, in your colon, carry an energy. Think about it. It's waste matter that wants to get out. It's stuck, right? So that alone shows it needs to get out. But secondly, it carries an energy. So let's say when you were eating, something happened that was very stressful. All of a sudden, the energy of that stress got trapped in that food, and it's stuck in your gut. So like the more that you could cleanse out any kind of thing that's in your gut, it actually will boost your energy, your mood, your vibration, but overall you'll just feel more energy. And I think that that's really the benefit of the consistent cleansing. It's kind of like when you, like I was talking about earlier, when you change your oil in the car, you actually immediately can tell that your car drives better. What's that? Flor, did you want to say something? Oh.
No, sorry. It's I was just thinking with you, but it's okay.
Okay, no worries. Okay. Anyway, so basically, I hope this is helpful, because one of the things that I really think is so interesting is that there's different ways of looking at it. A lot of people think like this is a yoga teacher training, which it is. Like you will become a yoga teacher at the end of this. But what I always focused on in my career and what made me very successful, like even the first year of being a full-time teacher, I think I made like $80,000, and that was like 17 years ago. So you could make really good money. If you were going to say the equivalent of that, it would be like double. It would be the equivalent of 100 and something thousand a year as a teacher. And it wasn't because I was just teaching a lot of yoga classes. It was because I was working with clients one-on-one, and I would work with them on all these other things: cleansing, detox, nutrition. and the yoga and the breath and the meditation and their stress and their lifestyle, and like the reason that they have neck pain is because they're carrying a 20-pound purse on one side every day. So like these lifestyle shifts, and helping people to see that one tiny little change of behavior in a consistent basis can change your entire life. One thing that I always recommended to most of my clients who would come to me with neck or back pain was to see how are they sleeping, besides for the purse, because that was also another one that caused a lot of pain. But how are you sleeping? Because most people sleep on a pillow that's not good for their neck. So then they wake up and they have a neck ache, and then that causes shoulder pain, upper back, and it ends up trickling down all the way to the lower back, and their whole body's in pain, and they don't realize is from something as simple as the pillow. Now, there are certain types of pillows that you can have in your bed that are particularly created for orthopedic or, for the neck, and those are good. For me, if I ever have a pain in my neck, it's almost always the pillow. Not always, but almost. And so what I usually do to heal it is some yin yoga, some stretching, which we have those videos in the training. You can see, especially in the 30-day over challenge, I have a whole neck healing video. Leave a comment if you've watched my neck healing video. I personally think that's like one of the best videos that I've ever done. Not because it's so complicated, but because it's like everybody needs that. And you could do some neck healing every single day. Like just stretch out your neck because it's so important. Your neck is the kind of bridge between your body and your mind, right? So if you have any cricks in your neck, pain in your neck, all this kind of stress, tension, your mind can't work as well. The energy and the signals don't flow as easily. So it actually disturbs a lot more than just like neck pain. It causes a lot of issues. Besides for that though, what I usually do besides stretching it out, getting a massage, self-massage and things like that, is actually sleeping a whole night without a pillow on your back. If you sleep no pillow, laying on your back, your neck will heal itself in 1 or 2 nights. That happened to me like 20 times. Like every time I ever sleep on a bad pillow, I'm like, okay, next night, no pillow. Now it's very strange at first. You're like, it's like this mind game. It's like, I deserve a pillow. Like, why am I not doing a pillow? But then you don't do the pillow the whole night. It feels very like, military barracks. But anyway, it's fine. You wake up, your neck feels amazing. And you realize it was the pillow every time. So I just want to mention that because these little hacks, they're so simple. You might say like, oh yeah, that's like so simple that it's stupid. No, this is life-changing information. I'm telling you. When people come to you with all their neck pain, all their back pain, all their shoulder pain, and you're like, actually, it's this and this, little tweaks to your lifestyle. Stop carrying the heavy purse. You don't need to carry a hairbrush, a can of hairspray, and a bottle of water and a bottle of champagne in your purse. You know what I mean? Like I had clients like that, so I had to really get them to see that the importance of the health and well-being of their neck and their shoulders, their spine, and the way that they feel was dependent on making these little changes. Let's see. Katie said, Katie says, so true. Since I immigrated, my digestion has been a real battle. Oh, wow. Trying to get used to the different foods. Yeah. Sometimes it can be that, like where you go to a new country, she says immigrated, which I think means she moved. But yeah. So ultimately, like we can improve that by doing a cleanse, and then you can also do little things. Like I talk about this a lot in the cleanse programs that we teach, but like probiotics, enzymes. Probiotics and enzymes are not the same. You need both. So probiotics are little like digestion, little bugs that go in there and help to digest the food. But enzymes are a little bit different. They help to break down the food. So you need both. So you want to get, if you can, a probiotic that has enzymes, or you can get 2 separate things. Papaya is a wonderful enzyme. So if you can eat papaya, that's the best one. And then if you go to like any kind of Japanese restaurants or something, you can usually get green papaya, which has a lot of green papaya salad. It's great for your digestion. Another one that's wonderful that I eat like almost every day is kimchi. Kimchi is wonderful. It's fermented. So all of the health advocates recommend having fermented foods, whether it's sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt, which has the fermentation. And some people recommend kombucha, but I actually don't because it's so bubbly that it causes a lot of gases. So if you're like, man, I'm bloated all the time, but I love my kombucha, it might be that. The other thing that I found caused me a lot of bloating, which I stopped now as much, is like when you blend, like let's say you're making a smoothie and you have a very high powered blender like a Vitamix, and you blend your smoothie, if you blend it for too long at too high of a setting, it gets a lot of bubbles. You'll see it. And then when you're drinking that, just imagine, now I'm consuming a whole cup of bubbles. What are bubbles? Gases. So all of a sudden, you're bringing in tons of gas and you're like, why am I bloated? Okay, so these are simple little hacks. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it can make a huge difference. I remember when I first learned, like, oh my goodness, my kombucha and my smoothie is what's causing me to be bloated. It was a shift, right? It was like, okay, I'm going to cut way back on kombucha. You can have a little bit of kombucha, maybe like this much. You know, think of it as a medicinal instead of like an everyday drink. Like I know a guy, he drinks like, he has a whole fridge full of kombucha. He drinks like 3 or 4 a day, like as if it's just water. I don't recommend that. First of all, you don't want that much carbonation at all. And then also just the fermented kombucha mushroom, it's not meant to be consumed in copious amounts. It's a medicine. So you just always want to think in terms of moderation if possible. Let's see. I got this. Stacey said, I would love some more information about the cleanses. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you for the request. I always love when you guys post in the comments and give me your request, because to me, that's the whole purpose of this live session, is to help you, and especially if you have any like requests. So thank you for that, Stacy. And the cleanses, okay, so we have a whole program. It's called the Total Life Cleanse. Now, when I think of a cleanse, like I think it's like not just your gut, right? It's like your whole life. So I also, although in the program that I teach, I don't necessarily go into like cleansing your house, like feng shuiing your car, like, you know, but these are all things that cause an energetic disturbance. But we mostly focus on the nutrition, the gut, the digestion, and the mind and the energy. That's why in the Total Life Cleanse, we also do a lot of EFT, which includes like emotional freedom technique, which is an energy, like emotional cleansing, breathwork, which is clearing energy with breathwork, meditation, which is clearing your mind, right? Cleansing your mind, cleansing your emotions, cleansing your gut. You see, so this is like how we do what I call total life cleanse. The other aspect of the total life cleanse is cord cutting. What I call cord cutting is where you cut off energies with people, situations, environments, relationship dynamics, whatever it is, that you cut things off if they're not serving you, right? And you're like, really look at those just like you would look at your food. Like when you realize, okay, eating Twinkies every day is not a good idea, right? I mean, these are not rocket science, right? But like when you know that, but then you keep doing it, that's when they call that insanity, right? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over, but expecting a different result. So when you know that you shouldn't be, let's say, interacting with someone that's toxic a lot, but you keep doing it, that's when you have to be more disciplined with your cord cutting, which is like cutting the energy of that and releasing it, letting it go, reclaiming your power, reclaiming your self-love, and being like, I deserve to be treated better, I deserve to be in an environment of loving energy. And that is part of the cleansing when I talk about total life cleanse. But in the program, we really focus on just the mind, the emotions, and the digestion, the food and the nutrition. So hopefully that answers your question, Stacy. And if you have any very specific questions, please feel free to post them, and I'm happy to answer anything. There's a number of cleanses that I teach. So the master cleanse is kind of one of them, which I teach the version called Goddess Cleanse. There's also the smoothie cleanse. We have a whole ebook about the 7-day green smoothie cleanse. The green smoothie cleanse was a life-changing experience for me because it helped me to feel fuller, because with the smoothies, it still has fiber in it. So you don't feel as hungry because you have more substance, but it's still moving all this gunk and blocked stuff out of you. So you're cleansing, but you're not feeling hungry all the time. And that's one of the challenges of cleansing when you first start out, is like sometimes you can feel hungry if you're just doing only juices or only water or only the master cleanse or any of that. You have to make it past day 3 in order to feel good again, because day 3 is when a lot of things shift and you feel full even though you're not eating anything. And it's a huge mind shift, because a lot of times our mind is telling us we're hungry, and we're not really, like, actually we learned this through cleansing and fasting, is that after day 3 you're no longer hungry. So then you're like, that's interesting. Usually in my life after 1 hour I'm hungry. Now 3 days of no eating and I'm not hungry. So it helps you to realize on a deep conscious level that your hunger is in your mind. And everything's in our mind. And it helps you to realize that, okay, if my hunger is in my mind, what else is in my mind that I think is real? And it's really interesting. I mean, there are people that have gone months without eating, as long as they have some kind of liquid substance. And so you start to see you don't actually need food as much as you think. And then all these people that are like, you need to eat every 2 hours. I used to be that kind of person. I was a bodybuilder and a bikini model. And it'd be like, you need to eat minimum 5 meals a day, every 2 to 3 hours to keep your metabolism going. Now I'm the opposite. I do intermittent fasting. I eat like 2 times a day maximum, and I feel better than ever. I'm 41. I look the same as when I was 21. And so you realize a lot of the rules that people preach about, there's no one rule. Really, there's different lifestyles that fit you at different times of your life and fit different people depending on what they need and want. And all of it can work. All of it can be beneficial. For me, intermittent fasting is the best thing for me. I find that if I don't eat for 16 to 18 hours a day, that's the daily intermittent fasting protocol that I do now that I love, that I feel so good. And then my only challenge is not like eating too much in the window of time that I'm eating. So like I like to eat for like 6-hour window, and I try to do only 1 or 2 meals, because if you're like, oh good, I can eat everything I want, then you're gonna feel so full. It just ruins the whole thing. So you start to work more with moderation and really like conscious mindfulness around the eating process and around the consumption of everything, whether it's music or TV, media, social media, the news, anything, right? So that's all part of the cleanse. Hopefully that answers your question, Stacy. Flor says, yes, I think it's a very powerful sequence because you help people to get confidence again in getting rid from neck and back pain by multidimensional targeting body, mind, and lifestyle. Exactly, Flor. That's such a good way of saying it. Exactly. And I think that this is, and Flor's been with us for a while, so, and I love, because she's from like Amsterdam and so, or the Netherlands, and I always love to see how like cross-cultural this information is. It's applicable to everybody. There's no like, oh, this is just for these kinds of people. It's not just for athletes. It's not just for yogis. It's literally everybody needs to understand this aspect of life, which is that, like she said, targeting mind, body, and lifestyle. It's a multidimensional approach. And that when you realize that you're a multidimensional being, then you realize everything has to have a multidimensional approach. There's zero chance that you're going to get to the core of everything and heal and be your best self if you just think of one-dimensional like approaches, right? One-dimensional approach would be like, hey, I have a neck pain, I'm gonna go get a massage. That doesn't heal it. Why? Because if you go right back to your old bad pillow or your unbalanced shoulder thing with the purse, or like whatever other lifestyle problems that are happening in your life, you're gonna go right back to the pain, and that massage is gonna last 1 day. But if you know the problem, fix it at the core, now the pain is gone permanently. So that's what we want to aim for. We want to help people heal their problems on a deep core permanent level, and not just on like a superficial, like just for today kind of level. And I noticed that a lot of people go to massages because they're in stress and they're in pain, and they feel better for that 1 hour. And then the next day, they go back to their lifestyle, they go back to their chaotic environment where their home is a mess. They have like kids and dogs and work and in-laws or whatever the thing, you know, that's causing the most stress, it's still, the environment is still there. Until you fix the environment, until you fix the lifestyle, you will continuously go back into pain. And that's the same thing what we were talking about earlier with like lumbar bulging discs or any of this like very severe back pains, is that, you know, you can stretch it, you can even get a surgery, but if you don't fix the core of the problem, let's say the core of the problem is you don't feel safe, you don't feel stable or secure in your life, if you don't fix the core of that, even with surgery, you won't heal the problem. And this is something I learned with my clients. I had a client that had this horrendous hip pain, and it was so bad, it came from when she gave birth. She gave birth to her second child, and it created such a pain that literally she had to take a wheelchair out of the hospital. She gained 10 years overnight. Her hair turned completely white, and she became like very, very old, and she couldn't walk. And it was from the birth, because in the hospital, they made her lay down. And you're supposed to be able to have a little bit of an angle to have a good position to push the baby out. And they required her to lay at a bad angle that caused her this like decades of pain. So she came out of there, she felt completely unsupported, unsafe, and painful. She ended up getting 2 hip surgeries. Neither of them helped. Why did they not help? They didn't help because they weren't addressing the actual problem. The problem was she didn't feel safe, she didn't feel secure, she didn't feel supported. And so just going in and getting a new hip does not cure the core of that. So when I met her, it was like 10 years later. She'd been not able to really walk for 10 years, dragging her leg around like an old lady and feeling terrible. And we started working on the core of the pain, the issue which was an unresolved trauma, the issue that was so deep in the core of her being. She felt unsupported, unloved, uncared for, unsafe in her life. And that was causing her hip to lock up because it was her body screaming at her this message, which was, you need to look at the core of this issue and not just like get another hip, right? So that's what she did with me. And then within a short time, she was able to walk again. She was able to do like really advanced yoga poses that she never thought she could do. But when she met me, she couldn't even bend her knee hardly. You know, it was just so extreme. And so I learned so much from that like case study, which was that the physical, you can go get all the surgery that you want. It will not fix your problems if your problems are on a deep core trauma. And so you got to work on the level of that. So some of the breath work that we teach, holotropic breath work is one of the best types of breath work for clearing trauma. And we do that in our program in Bali. So everybody who's coming to Bali with us, we're going to be doing a whole holotropic rebirthing ceremony. This is to clear any kinds of traumas out of your heart, out of your body. You can clear even lifetimes. I've had people be like, I saw my past life trauma, or even the moment of your birth could have been traumatizing, like what happened with that woman I just described. And so you can clear that. Now, once you release it, it releases it on a cellular level, it releases it permanently. And this is the miracle of the flow state system of healing, is that it releases it permanently. After that, you might need to do a little bit of processing, which I highly suggest, which is, you know, you go in, you look at it, you wrap yourself with love, you tell your inner child you're safe. You know, there's all of this protocol, which should have happened just naturally when you were a child, that you should have had somebody hug you and say you're safe and that you're supported and that you're amazing. But if you didn't have all that, you got to do it to yourself now. They call it self-parenting. You know, you got to go back and reparent the inner child that didn't get what it needed. And that's a lot of the work that we do. We look at the deep core, we reparent the inner child, we give it love and support and the feeling of safety and security, and keep giving it. It has to have consistency. It has to feel that on a regular basis to know that it's permanent, that it's like, yeah, I'm permanently safe, not just this moment, but tomorrow too. And you keep reassuring the inner child through meditations and practices, and then over time, it's natural. Now all of a sudden the inner child feels safe all the time. You ever see like a little kid that has good parents obviously is very trusting and happy and feels safe. It's such a different experience than a traumatized child that's been abandoned, that cries a lot, that doesn't feel they can trust anybody, pushes people away, fights, gets in a lot of conflict. Those behavior patterns carry over into adulthood. That's why I'm so passionate about the children and the work that we're doing with the children of the future, because I really feel that this is the information that every child, every parent, and every teacher should know. Because it's something that I would say at least 50%, but I would probably say more like 90% of children on earth do not get proper foundational care. They don't feel safe. They don't feel supported. They don't feel loved. They don't feel that they matter. They feel abandoned, they feel neglected, they feel worthless, and that's why we have a whole world of people growing up with conflict, violence, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, money issues, poverty consciousness. All of this is stemming from the child that didn't feel supported, that didn't feel there was enough. They didn't feel they were enough, didn't feel worthy of love, didn't feel worthy of receiving what they need in life. And those patterns become ingrained in the consciousness, in the subconscious mind, and carry forward into adulthood. And as they carry forward into adulthood, that's when we have adults that have like a lot of issues, right? So we've all been there. I'm not saying like I'm not one of them. I'm one of them. That's how I started on this path. It's so many issues. And even to this day, I still work through little issues. You know, I look at like one of the things that I've been working through recently, which I mentioned to you all recently, was like I realized I was an overgiver for a long time, and it would be to a point of depletion. If you've ever been an overgiver, maybe you know what I mean. You could leave a comment, let me know. But basically, overgiver is somebody who gives, and it's like to a fault, right? It's nice to be a giver. You should be generous. But if you only give, and there's like, you attract people that are takers who don't give back, then it's imbalanced. And then you feel like depleted, you feel used, you feel taken advantage of, people steal from you. Like it attracts this kind of sort of vampiric stealing energies because you're just giver. So you got to find that balance where you give and you create space to receive. You find and attract people that love to also give back. So you give and they give. And it's a nice symbiotic, loving cycle of life of giving and receiving. And it's a beautiful exchange. And that's what life should be. But if you have a dysfunction in this, like I did for many years, which is give, not get anything back, feel depleted, feel exhausted, feel used, this is a very core fundamental issue. And I discovered that my problem, the core of it was coming from a feeling of being unworthy to receive, unworthy of love, unworthy of getting what I need, right? So this core energy was coming from the feeling of being abandoned by my parents, for example, or whatever. So there was like so many layers to like this whole story. So, you know, you can do a lifetime of work. You still start to uncover deeper and deeper things that can be healed. And I love that because as we do that, we get clearer and clearer, stronger and stronger, more powerful. And you can come from a place of true experience to help other people. And you can be like, I've been through that. I've been there. If you're there, I've been there. I want you to know you can get through it. It's not even that hard. It's just you require to do the work, to put in the time, to put in the effort, and to even want to. So have the interest, have the willingness and the desire to heal. And that's the starting point for everything. If you have the desire to heal, the willingness to do the work, and to prioritize that, then everything can be healed. And that's the beautiful thing that I always want to emphasize for everybody, is that everything can be healed. So if somebody comes to me and say, oh, I have this bulging disc, I said, that can be healed. Oh, okay, I have this problem here. Whatever it is, I had scoliosis. The doctor said you could not heal scoliosis. I healed scoliosis. And I learned and I knew, even when they told me you can't heal scoliosis, I knew, because I felt everything is possible. Everything is possible. So if everything is possible, why wouldn't I be able to heal my spine? Why wouldn't I be able to heal my traumas? Why wouldn't I be able to create an incredible life of abundance and miracles, even though I grew up on food stamps and foster homes, you know? So like you can do anything, like it's all possible. And I feel like that's why we go through challenges in life, is so that we can get to a place where it's so not just like in the mind, but it's a knowing. It's a knowing because we've experienced it. We say, everything's possible. And I can tell you because I've been there and I've been through it. And that's why. And not just, I read it somewhere. Everything's possible. To really experience it, that is such a blessing. Even if it's a challenge, that's why challenges are our greatest blessings. And one other thing I want to mention has to do with the idea that, you know, so often when we're going through a difficult time, we can think to ourselves, oh my God, like this is horrible. But actually, it's only in our discomfort and in our challenging moments where we grow. That's how we grow. If we're not going through any challenges or discomfort, we're staying stagnant or we're declining. We're not growing. And one of the things that's so rewarding about life is growth. Growing as a soul, growing your mind, growing your impact, growing your awareness, growing your income even, or growing whatever you want to grow. But growing in every area feels so rewarding. So if we're not growing, that's usually can make us also feel sort of like dissatisfied with life or depressed even, and things like that. So we want to look at that. Are we growing? And if we're not, are we avoiding discomfort? Or are we plunging head first into the discomfort with total excitement, knowing discomfort is where I grow? So I want to stay in the discomfort. I even know some guys, they have a whole company. I think it's called like Embrace the Discomfort or something like, I forget what it's called, but it's something like that. Basically, where they built a whole brand around being in discomfort, and then they do all these things like skydiving and this and that. But basically, it's just showing like, get out of your comfort zone. That's where the magic happens. Let's see. Justine says, Lisa on YouTube has really great cord cutting meditations, a simple 7-minute one and a longer 30-minute one. Oh, good. Yeah, actually, I have a lot of cord cutting meditations as well in the replays. We've done those in these live sessions over the past couple of years. We did that several times. And so I can give you guys one of my favorite and most effective cord cutting session that I did was during the lockdown, and I was living in Hawaii, and I did this session. It was, I think, 3 hours, and we went through, and you write down everything in your lifetime that you want to cut the cord. It could be a person, an experience, or anything. And you write it all down, and one by one we went through and we did a whole cord cutting and healing practice with each thing. And in the end of it, like each one of those, we wrapped it in love, we forgave, we let it go. And it was 3 hours. So not everybody has 3 hours worth of things that they want to cord cut. But for me, I found that I had a lot. Apparently. I had a lot. I needed 3 hours. I needed 3 hours, 3 different days. I needed 9 hours. But anyway, maybe you only have one thing you need to cord cut. But if you need a long one, you can do a short one too. It's just learning the technique. The technique, it's a meditation. It's a visual. For me, I like the one that's a visualization, and you see it, and it can also physically do the gesture of cutting the cords, but it's really seeing the energetic completion of that energy between you and the other person, or you and the pattern, or whatever it is, and doing something that's very visceral that ingrains it into you that this is complete. And so we have that. So if anybody's interested in the replay of that, let me know. I'll try to find the link for you. Flor says, yes, overgiver here and the desire to heal. Oh, good. Yeah, a lot of times when we're healers, people that are healers or teachers, or, women, not all, but a lot of women tend to be overgivers. And it's an interesting thing. Actually, the feminine energy, the divine feminine energy, is actually to receive. So it's very strange that women tend to be the overgivers. So it's a dysfunction of being out of your feminine energy. Now the divine feminine energy is to receive. So the healing of it is to practice receiving. And that's not only practice receiving from other people, but that's part of it. If you notice, you always give to certain people and they don't give back, You got to look at that. And you could have a conversation with them. If it's somebody that you want to keep in your life, have a conversation with them. Be open and honest. Say, you know, I really feel that I give a lot and it's not a balanced exchange. And you could have that conversation. If the person is conscious and if they love you and if they want to keep the relationship, they will perhaps want to have that conversation and make some changes. But if they're like selfish, then cut them off. Do the cord cutting and let them go, because you know, some people are just better off not in your life. So that's just how life is. But the point is that when you're an overgiver, the healing of that is, first of all, learning to give to yourself. So that's why we have the whole self-love and yoga. It's called SLAY. Self-love and yoga is a whole program that I have in this, and it's included in the yoga teacher training in the flow state program. It's included for you all as a bonus. But self-love and yoga is a program. It's all about giving yourself. So giving to yourself is a really beautiful thing, because it's giving and receiving at the same time. You're giving to yourself. You have to receive that. So it's a great practice. And then once your cup is full from you giving to yourself, like for example, the other day I was saying I was exhausted, I went to the spa. That's an example of giving to yourself. Go, take yourself to the spa. Give yourself that gift. Get a massage. Be in the spa for 8 hours. Give yourself that time. These are different ways. There's different ways. The cleansing. That's a really good way of being consistent with giving to yourself. I like to do it regularly. I do it at least every month. And now I'm doing intermittent fasting, so I'm basically doing it almost every day, which I love. It's amazing. I worked my way up to feeling like I just want to do this every day. And it's a form of self-love, self-care, and that's giving to yourself. But then once you get used to this energy of giving and receiving to yourself, you know, what it does is it fills up your cup. Now, once your cup is full and you're feeling like overflowing, that's when you're going to also attract people that are not as much takers, and they're actually maybe want to have more of a giving and receiving exchange. That's the best relationship dynamic that you can attract, and so that's what you want to get to. Hopefully you have that in every area of your life. Let's see. Flora says, yes, the cord cutting session would be great. Okay, I'm going to find that. Joe says, I'm installing a water purifier. Oh, good. That's great. Yeah, I have been doing that in my house too. I put one in the best one that I love is in the shower. Water purifier, mineralization. It gets out all the hard water and fluoride and all the bad stuff, and it puts just healthy minerals. So that's a game changer, because it does such a world of difference just in terms of your skin, your hair, things like that. That starts to build up from all this chemicals that comes through the water when you live in cities. So anyway, super, super important. And also what you drink. One of the things that I got really into is my friends have this company called Alive Water, and they only deliver to they deliver to Florida, Texas, and California, and Hawaii. But it's amazing to get this beautiful Italian glass with sacred geometry of the flower of life all over it, and then they deliver like fresh purified spring water from these sacred springs that they go and get the water. So anyway, that's been a really nice thing to know that I'm bringing in fresh pure spring water that's carried in glass versus, for example, like plastic bottled water, right? Or like tap water in a Brita filter. Like those things were like basic, but I don't think that they're optimal. You know, you want to try to go for optimal wellness, and your water is a huge one, both how the one that comes onto you from the shower and the bath, but also the sink and your food and your drinking. So water is a huge thing. It sounds so simple, like, oh yeah, you see everybody walking around with a plastic bottle. Plastic bottled water is really bad for you. The plastic leaches into the water. So you're drinking microplastics all day long when you drink plastic like bottled water out of a plastic. So I don't suggest it. I try to stay away from plastic bottled water. And it also fills the landfills. It's terrible for the earth. There's so many things about that. Let's see. Yes, this is direct from the sink, so the self-love is avoiding carrying it. Well, there you go. You know, carrying is also a bunch of extra work. But yeah, maybe you could get this live water at your house, Joe. It's really nice. It's fresh spring water delivered in a glass. But you know, there's always different levels of it. The other thing that I really like to do is have a morning routine. doesn't always have to be the same. In Bali, when we're all going to be together in the Bali training retreat, we do a morning routine called the Miracle Morning. It's one of my favorite ways to start the day. And we do like an hour of like meditation, breath work, journaling, reading positive things. We do a little bit of Kriyas, mantra, and then meditation. So that's a beautiful hour, and I just love to share this. And some of the people who have come to my training said that that's actually their favorite thing that they learn at my program. So I'm super excited to share that with you. And if you have any friends that would potentially like to come to Bali with us, we have some more spots. The place is unbelievable. It's so beautiful. And there's even a spa there. They have a steam room, they have sauna, they have obviously massage, facials, everything that you could dream of. And it's all like actually very affordable at the spa. I know you can do the massages are like $20 or something. So you could get like a massage every day, which I would highly suggest if you're coming to Bali with us, just because it's worth it. You're going to leave there being like, oh my God, like this is a new life. Reborn. But anyway, so, and if you have any friends that would like to join us, they can come just for the retreat, or they could come for the teacher training and become certified. And I always think like a lot of people think they just want to do the retreat, but once they get there, they realize, wow, it's actually such an amazing thing that I could become certified and teach this. You can create a whole another career. You can create an income stream. You can create a full-time living. Like I said, when I started 17 years ago, I was making $80,000 a year working full-time my first year. So you can really make like a full-time living doing this, doing what you love, helping people, and it keeps you in your routine, in your practice, because you can't go and share these things and not practice them yourself, because then you're not living in integrity and walking your talk. So you're going to keep yourself in your practice more by teaching, by sharing this. And there's like literally there's no limit to how much impact you can make. I mean, you can lead retreats, you could do online courses, you could do private clients, you could do private workshops, groups, weekend retreats, one-day retreats. So many things. I mean, it's just limitless. And that's one of the things that why we included the business training in this program. And in 2023, we're not going to be including the business training anymore, because it's going to be separate. We're going to be offering a whole high-level, done-for-you business training, which would help you to create your website, your social media, your marketing, all of those things, and get you set up with a marketing system as well to get clients. And all of that we're going to have available in 2023 as another program. It's not this one, but it'll be like for when you're ready. Once you graduated, or if you're already a teacher or a healer and you want to be able to take that out there to the next level. You know, I feel so grateful I was able to impact, you know, like around 100 million people with my message, with this teaching. And it's because I learned all these things. It's not because I just like knew what to do. I paid probably at least 100,000, if not multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn all this marketing, all of this business stuff over the past 20 to 25 years, because I actually have a business degree as well from college. But so anyway, we put all of that into this business training, and my pure intention is to help our tribe and community not just create a living, but create an extraordinary living that you're proud of, that you're excited about, that you can't wait to get up in the morning to do this beautiful work, to do your self-care and your flow state practices, and then all the cool ways that you've created that help other people to get into this good energy, because we're creating a ripple effect. The more positive energy we have in our life, and then we share that, we start to create a ripple, like waves of good energy around the world. And that's what the world needs right now more than ever. We have never been in such a chaotic time on earth, with war and climate crisis and tragedies and crazy stuff like what's happening in Iran with the women and the genocide. And we are at a pivotal time on earth where the healers and the teachers and the light workers are being called to step into your power and to really contribute more, because we need more of that on earth. So I'm so grateful to have you a part of this community. I want to just take a moment. If anybody has any other questions at this point, I've been talking, so I want to give you guys an opportunity to say anything that you want to say, share, and anything like that. I'm going to go over to the YouTube, see if people over here, can you name some yoga which we should practice daily? Okay, that was a question over on the YouTube. Well, the yoga that you should practice daily, I would say if you were going to do any one thing daily, you should do meditation. That would be my number one thing, because anyone can do that. Whereas the physical practice, I encourage that too. I would definitely go to download the Flow State app at theflowstate.app. That's the website. And in the Flow State app, you can practice some of the things. You can do the 7-day Flow State challenge that has some of the practices: meditation, EFT, breathwork, yoga. The Flow State challenge is in the Flow State app. It's at theflowstate.app. You can download the app for free. You can do the challenge for free. But we have a whole 30-day Flow State challenge. We have the 30-day yoga challenge. We have the self-love and yoga program, which is Slay. So we have different programs. So if there's any one thing you should do, I would say meditation, breathwork and meditation. But if you were looking at like, how do I change my whole life? Then, you might want to explore some of these other practices, because they're very applicable for different situations. Like if you're in a lot of stress, you want to do some breath work, some Kriya, you want to move your body and meditate and maybe do a cleanse. I mean, ultimately, the more tools you have and that you share with others, the more tools that they can practice these different things, it will just expedite the healing, expedite the transformation of energy. And if you're going from like exhausted, burned out, fatigued, you could, in a very short period of time, like a week or less, you could totally transform your energy just by applying these practices in a daily, consistent basis. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions? Let's see. Kojo says, I love when you share strong stories. Very good. Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. Smoothies, it also helps your body and gives you energy. Exactly. Let's see. Anybody else? Are you running?
Yeah, I have a quick question just regarding the, what's the best word? Like guiding a yoga class, like the person who's narrating or giving instruction, the teacher. In that particular place, like for example, I was doing your shoulder video and I realized I didn't really know the best position to place my hand. Where do you feel like the best resource to find that kind of information would be?
I feel like the best two things. First of all, is in this live session, because then you can ask the question. Because these are things that, like, they're very good questions. And, like, there's, like, millions of pieces of information. So, actually there's thousands of yoga poses. So it's almost impossible to have each specific detail of each thousands of yoga poses in any one specific spot. Although, in the Flow State training manual, we have a PDF. It's like 100 and something pages. And it has a lot of different poses. And in each one, it has like specific descriptions of what to do with your hand and this and that. So I don't know if you have that PDF. It's an ebook. You can also print it out if you want, but it's a digital book. And it has hundreds of yoga poses and very specific descriptions of what to do with your hand and your foot and the alignment and where to put all that. But when it comes to something very like specific, like what you're saying, then I would say always just come to the live is good, because then you could ask that specific pose, that specific one that came to your mind, if it felt it was just one. But if there was like 100 poses and you felt you had questions about each one, there are different. Bye, Justine. Have a beautiful day, goddess. So nice to have you with us. She had to go. And Katie has a question too, but I'm going to get to that in a second. So basically, first of all, the training manual, that's where you're going to get a lot of this types of specific descriptions on what to do. Also, because there are hundreds of videos, in different videos, there's more descriptions than others. So for example, there's a whole module, it's called full length classes. So those are like 1 or 2 hours long. And those longer classes, you'll see that you go into more detail on the description of where to put your hand and this and that, just because you have longer time. So if you have an hour or 2 hours, then you're going to get much more detailed, specific cueing. Those are called cueing, where it's like put your hand here and this foot there and exactly this angle. Those are cueing. So that's what we call choreography, but it's also the cueing is the specifics of where to put your hand, where to put your foot, where to put your eye gaze. And those are in the full length classes more than anything, but also in the flow state training manual. You'll see all that in the written form. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. I guess my mind went on a whole roller coaster. Like, I knew over my career as an orthopedic nurse, a lot of people who claim to have hurt themselves in yoga with really interesting stories. Like, this one guy was on his knees and bending backwards to grab his ankles, which I consider to be a very easy pose myself, but he was a grown, an older man. Maybe he had never done anything like that. Well, anyway, he tore both of his meniscus and had to have both his knees operated on after this.
Oh.
And that's when I met him. And so it's like, sometimes you hear these stories and you're like, well, how can I make sure that never happens to me as an instructor? How can I cue people? Because, I'm guilty of that too. I'll listen to, and I'll just try to follow and do the best I can. And then I'll be like, ow, whoa, wait a minute. My elbow's definitely not supposed to bend like that. And then I'll usually correct myself. But, some of these older people might not be able to correct themselves until they hurt themselves.
Okay, so in that case, that's a good point and a good question. The number one thing you always want to encourage people is to listen to their body. So, like, what you're describing is somebody who didn't listen to their body, because your body will kind of give you a little message before you tear a meniscus, right? It's usually like, that hurts a little, that's a little too much, and then I was like, but like, if you're not listening at all to your body, then you could get to that point. But like, the point of yoga, and a big emphasis in the cueing, which is where you're teaching and guiding the class, is to continuously remind people, listen to your body and do not push past a limit where your body feels good, right? And some people encourage pushing to the limits, and I don't. The only people I would encourage that for is like people that are athletes that know how to listen to their body already, and that they know when they're at their limit, and they know the difference between the limit of a muscle being stretched or the limit of a ligament being compromised, right? So those are like really subtle ability to listen to your body. So for somebody who you're describing, I don't know if this person was old or whatever, but you said like an older person, if he was like 80 and maybe he had already like fragile meniscus or like joints or tendons or whatever going on, he should know that already, like going in, but not everybody does. So it's the teacher's job to say, the most important thing is to listen to your body and to go slowly. Right? So when you go slowly, you can hear better. You can listen more. You say, oh, it's hurting already. Let me stop here. But if you're not listening, you can throw yourself out, right? Same thing with almost any of the yoga practices. Like, for example, something as simple, it could be something as basic as, let's say, downward dog, right? But like, if you're not listening to your body and you're doing downward dog, and let's say you have extraordinarily tight hamstrings, but you're really hell-bent on getting your feet flat. Like, this is something like the ego steps in and it's like, I need my feet flat. Everybody else's feet are flat and mine are all up like that. And so they're pushing, but their hamstrings are tight. So you could actually tear a hamstring, right? So these are all possible. You could literally tear something walking along the street too. So these are all possible no matter where you are. But in the yoga practice, it's a little more possible or more likely because it's a potential, because you're like doing a lot of extreme stretches. And so it becomes even more important to emphasize the importance of listening to your body and the mindfulness of the movements, where they're moving into the pose slowly while listening to it. That's called mindfulness. It's like moving into it gradually. Your body will tell you when it's enough. But if you just push yourself into something, you don't have enough time to register the message that it's enough. So that's when you get the injury. So that's kind of like, it's almost like the metaphor that what we were talking about earlier with the chewing. It's like people that just wolf down the food or like inhale the food versus slowly. I know, Joe, you're a good chewer. So like slowly chewing the experience of the food and then swallowing, whereas someone in a yoga class, there's a person that just pushes himself into the pose, and then there's a person that transitions slowly into the pose. And you want to be that person. It's like chewing your food. It's like moving into the pose is a shift of slow progression of listening to your body. And this is the kind of cueing you can do in your class. As a teacher, in your own words, you want to say that, or you can use my words if you feel you need to or want to. But the main thing is communicating that it's not a race. You're not trying to get there. You're not trying to be any certain pose. You're not supposed to try to look a certain way. It's really more about how you feel and tapping into how you feel. And if somebody's really out of touch with how they feel, that can be very foreign and or uncomfortable. But you still want to emphasize that as the primary focus of the class, is focusing on listening mindfully to how you feel and learning to stop when your body says stop. And this is part of the self-love practice too. It's like sometimes we push ourselves to the limit, whether it's in work or in working out or in different ways. And in the yoga practice, it's like this little microcosm opportunity to look at how we approach everything. Are we the person that's jamming ourselves, or are we taking our time? Are we the person that's inhaling our food, or are we chewing it? And then we become, hopefully through this practice, more mindful in every area of life, you know. And I mean, it's a lifelong journey. Like, I still accidentally like inhale my food sometimes, and I'm like, oh my god. But at least there's an awareness, and mostly I don't. So it's like, okay, but it doesn't mean you're perfect, right? It just means that you're mindful when you do the old habit again, and you stop, you correct yourself, and you do it again, like right way. But if you have somebody that's an older person, you want to continuously verbally emphasize, listen to your body, please take it slow. It's not a race. There's no perfect way. You don't need to look a certain way. It's about how you feel. So listen to how you feel, breathe. Those are the cues that you want to go with. So it's more important with that than like almost anything, right? Because if you say your hand needs to be in this exact spot, well, think about it. If you're an older man and your hand can't go in that spot because your hamstrings are too tight, now all of a sudden he's super frustrated and confused because his hand doesn't go in that spot and his hamstrings are too tight. So now he's trying to push his legs flat so that he can get into the thing the way you told him to, because your hands are supposed to be in this spot. That's why I don't put so much emphasis on exact like hand positions, although I do feel there are really good important alignment techniques. But like when you start putting exact rules on everybody, it can cause injury, because there are like tremendous amount of people that those are not going to be available to them because of their physical constraints. So you want to say, in general, you want to have your hands shoulder distance apart, you know, your palms flat, you know, like you have these certain cues. But you also want to always remind people, listen to your body. You know, that's the more important than being in the perfect hand position that I'm describing. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. And okay, we had 2 questions. One was Katie. She says, we're coming to Bali a couple days early and leaving a few days later after the training. Which are the correct email address to ask about booking the room longer? So please direct any emails to our assistant, Jinalyn, who is our happiness manager, and you can email her at support@flowstate.yoga. She's wonderful, and she's going to be helping with everything like that. And Rosie says, I'm finding it difficult to focus on the breathing and verbally instruct at the same time. Any tips? So you're finding it difficult to focus on your own breathing, or you mean on cueing the breath? Because this is the secret to that. And I went over this a lot of different times, but I would love to happily do it here. And also if you come to Bali, we do it there too. But basically there's a specific protocol of cueing the breath. I usually do the breath cue first. So this is how it would go. If I was going to say, starting in a standing position, mountain pose, inhale, arms sweep out and up. So you say the breath cue and then the movement. So then exhale, bow forward into forward bend. Inhale, jump, step, or float back. Exhale to your belly. Inhale, upward dog or cobra. So you see how I put the breath and then I cue the movement. So that's the order that I think is really great, because it always puts the breath at the forefront of people's awareness, reminding them to breathe first and foremost, but also whether it's the inhale or the exhale. Now, if they're going to hold the pose for like 5 minutes, you might say, stay with the breath, inhale, exhale, and then you're going to go into your cueing. That makes sense? Let's see. Yes, that makes sense. Oh, good. Katie says, fabulous, thank you, can't wait. Yay, I can't wait to see you too. I love you guys. Great talk today, totally on point as usual. Yay, thank you for the feedback. So happy to spend today with you all. What a beautiful way to spend our Sundays. It's always a joy. Please feel free to connect with us all in the Facebook community. The Facebook community, it's just Flow State. I think it's just the Flow State community is the name of the group. It's a group on Facebook. So if you don't have the link, then let me put it here. I think it's facebook.com/groups, and then it's / the Flow State community. Something like that. Hopefully that's correct. Maybe it's flow-state. We'll see. Anyway, it's something of that nature. But anyway, if you just search Flow State Community, you'll see it. And there's like almost 2,000 people, and you can connect with the tribe and community. You can post questions in there as well. And you can post anything you want as well. And as we grow, you'll be able to promote what you're up to. So it's going to be a really, really great community that will be able to always support you as you grow and have different retreats or whatever, anything that you want to lead eventually. You can share about it in there. Because there's people in there that are in the training, but there are people also in there that want to do the training or want to go to a retreat. So there's both kinds of people. So it's a great community for you all to come and be a part of it. And if you have any other questions about the training, feel free to email our student happiness manager, Jenilyn, at support@flowstate.yoga. And also, like I said, if you have any friends or family that would like to join us, they can get 10% off, and you can earn 10% commission for referring your friends and family. So feel free to do that. And if you have any questions about that, email support@flowstate.yoga. We'll get you set up. Until next week, I love you all. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Thank you for being a part of our community, and sending you so much love to you and your family. Namaste. Love you.